Hello and welcome. You're listening to another new episode of NMPC Plus. For those unfamiliar, my name is Josh, and I remain one of the pastors, at least for now, of New Mercy Palisades Church, a little church plant that could. And I am joined by Pastor Bobae. Hello, Pastor Bobae.
Hello.
And I am joined by Pastor Key. Hello, Pastor Key.
Hello.
How you guys doing today?
Good.
I must confess that I might be a little bit wonky right now. My blood sugar is a little low. I haven't had lunch.
Oh, no.
And I worked out in the morning, and it wasn't smart, but as soon as we got back from the gym, I just plopped down on the couch and did nothing until, Bobae, you picked me up at 1:30, and that was a bad decision. I'm a 32-year-old man that doesn't know how to do nutrition well, so I must confess that I'm a little wonky right now, so please excuse me. But for now, I ask you, how's your week been, guys? We had a lot of things to look forward to over the past weekend, but perhaps, namely among them, we recently had the fellowship at the park.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, it was a little crazy getting there, but it ended up being a really awesome time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was wild.
It was
so
really
many
nice.
people.
Yeah, well, what were some of the highlights for you guys?
And the jumping bugs.
The jumping bugs?
What are those bugs?
Lantern flies.
Lantern flies.
You know they jump?
There were lantern flies there?
Yeah.
So they're like the predecessor to the lantern.
something.
Fully grown.
I don't know.
They are the caterpillar to the butterfly.
But
that
they
is
look
the lantern
like
fly?
these black crabs. Just like walking
And
like
they
this.
like jump.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not know.
They were like spotted.
Yeah.
I did not know. Where
They
was
kind
I?
of looked cute, but
Not cute, guys. Not cute. I don't know what the heck you're talking
Okay.
about.
What the? Where was I?
Just hanging out.
Nowhere to be found,
you
I
were,
guess.
you were ignoring them.
I was stepping on them most likely.
Probably.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm just kidding. All the dogs that showed up at the park,
Oh,
it was
yeah.
cute.
That's right.
That's
We had a
right.
few doggies there.
They were very cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
I got to see, what was his name?
which one? Snoop?
Snoop for the
Oh my
first
God.
time.
Oh, the new puppy for one of the couples in our church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very,
Snoop.
very cute.
Shout out Deco and Yujin, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Snoop was so cute.
Very cute.
Yeah.
And then we had that other dog, the black one.
I don't know.
That was just chilling, roaming around, just sort of
Yeah.
doing their own thing.
Such a chill dog.
Yeah.
Loved it.
And then we had another one, no? Sarah's dog.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Benji.
Yeah. Barking during service.
Is that right?
At one point, so I heard the bark. I was like, it took me a little while to register. I'm like, wait, that's a dog. But by the time it registered that it was a dog, I could have said something witty, but
Yeah.
it's too late.
Yeah, you were already past it.
I was like, oh, amen. But
Yeah.
it was too late by that point.
I was walking. So after worship, and while the announcements were going on, I was walking up the aisle, the side to get to the back because I had to run to the restroom. And as I was walking by, I swear I heard a, and I kind of freaked out. I was like, "Is someone growling in the back of this worship room right now?"
Some demon.
But I eventually saw the little pause between the seats.
Yeah.
So, and then when I came back, it happened like once or twice, like a small little bark, but you could definitely hear it in the auditorium. I was wondering how you would handle that.
Yeah, I wanted to say something, but it was too late by the time I realized, like, it's too late. Opportunity's gone.
I think I would have straight up been like, is there a dog? It's like, what does that sound?
Yeah, and that's not to say we were upset that the dog.
No,
Yeah,
not at all.
no.
No.
It's just
We weren't
doesn't
upset.
happen.
Yeah,
It was
It
very
doesn't
cute.
happen.
it's just such a strange occurrence.
I want more dogs. That was awesome.
Yeah. Speaking of that, what's like the weirdest thing, like as a pastor, maybe you're giving your message or maybe you're I don't know, worship, if that's something that you do. Like, what's the weirdest thing that's happened to you particularly during a worship service? It doesn't necessarily have to be Sunday. It could be like a retreat or a revival, something like that. What's one of the weirdest things? I have something if you guys want
Mine are pretty vanilla.
time to talk.
It's just when I put too much conditioner in my hair. And it's like falling all over the place.
Becomes luscious.
Yeah, it's very, very.
Luscious hair.
It's crazy. I couldn't.
Yeah.
That's the weirdest thing so far.
I did feel faint on Sunday. That's the weirdest I felt.
Well, there was a specific reason for that.
But that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess some issues.
But anyway, what's your story? I'm curious.
So I was, this was back when maybe 2012, 2013, I was serving as an intern at a church, and I was leading worship for the young adult congregation. And I guess I didn't tighten the mic stand enough. And so this first song was going, and we're like using wireless mics, so I didn't quite notice it. The first song was going, and I was leading, and I was the only one like up there. I was doing solo, and so the first song was going, and I closed my eyes because I was like super into the worship, and then slowly but surely I noticed that the mic was like, and I like opened my eyes and I realized like the mic was down here, and so I was like, oh shoot, what do I do? Because I didn't notice it until the start of the next song. And like I'm doing solo worship, what's the worst that could happen? But you get surprised at how like into a moment that you don't want to mess up. And so eventually like I had to like crouch down a little bit, and by now people definitely notice that there's something, but what can you do in that moment, right? So I had to crouch down, and then I had to catch the mic with my chin and then hold it up for the rest of the second song. And then I just did this. And then after the song was over, I eventually be like, I'm sorry guys, you're gonna have to show me some grace just because this mic stand is not doing it for me. That's like the first thing that came to mind, like having to catch a microphone on the stand with your chin.
That's pretty funny.
And do like 2.5 minutes of a worship song. That's one of the weirdest.
That sounds so stressful.
Yeah.
Oh
it's
my
definitely not that's one of those worship fails. If you guys follow the worship fails at all, that's definitely one of those like more prominent worship fails. And thankfully it was innocuous enough. There's also starting in the wrong key, or thinking you're forgetting that you have a capo on your guitar and playing in a way, and then it goes on. Everyone's just like taken out of a worship moment.
Yeah.
But anything like that for you guys?
Yeah, once I went speaking, I was adjusting the stand, and then the whole top came off.
Oh,
so that was one thing. I was like,
were your notes on there?
Yeah, I was like, sorry. I don't know what happened. But I think in terms of actual speaking, there's this one time we were talking about some sexuality thing, sermon thing, and then I was talking about I was supposed to say best friend, but I said breast friend.
Oh God!
And people started breaking up.
Got their attention.
They were like, "What's going on?"
Yeah,
What'd you say?
no, people started cracking up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't mean that.
Yeah,
but that's nothing too crazy.
Interesting. Oh, it's so vanilla then.
Yeah, very vanilla.
Well, I don't.
Let's keep it that way.
Well, yeah, I don't wish it upon you guys.
Keep it-
That's not what I'm
way.
saying. I don't wish it on you, but things do happen. You hear stories all the time.
Yeah.
I told that story on this podcast before. I think about like leading a time, and
Oh yeah.
and it was so good, and like the Spirit's flowing, everyone's sort of in it, and like our attention is on Jesus, and I'm like, man, I want to end this on a good note, and I'm going to end it on the Lord's Prayer. And I go, Our Father who art in heaven. And people start following it. Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And I forget the Lord's Prayer.
Amen.
Amen.
This is the summarized version.
The bridge.
Cliff notes.
It's not even a bridge. It is cut off.
Like
This is
the
the
cut-off version.
new standard. Josh cut off the Lord's Prayer.
Oh man.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Oh, sorry. What?
no, I was just gonna take it. But did you have something?
No, I was gonna go back to the park, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Go back to the park.
Please.
No, it was fun. Like I don't know if you saw. There's a circle of people bumping around the volleyball.
Oh yes.
I was like, and I went in. I'm like, oh, this brings back so many youth group memories. It was so much fun. I just wanted somebody in the middle so I can like hit them.
Yeah.
You guys played that, right?
Yeah. Isn't that called Assassin?
I forgot what it's called.
I'm pretty sure it's called
Assassin.
But that was nice, and the food was really good, even though I couldn't eat it. But it was very, Chung and Diana brought it, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
So
It's good.
everybody had a
times.
good time.
Yeah. It was also Father's Day that day.
Yeah.
This past Sunday.
Father's Day.
did you do anything? I mean, the only father here in this podcast sits on the far end of the table. Did you guys do anything for Father's Day?
No.
Okay. And we'll be right back.
No, we did not do anything.
No.
I really don't think we did anything.
Is it because you weren't feeling good?
I think that was part of it. We want to go out, but,
Sure.
but that's fine. We did go out to Houston's yesterday
There
for
it
my
is.
son's graduation, which was today.
I knew it.
So
I knew a trip to Houston's was coming.
yeah, it was definitely coming. And I ate the French dip sandwich, and I let out some sounds, and my whole family just kind of stared at me. But it felt so good. It tasted so good.
Yeah.
They made it different. Usually it's two pieces, one sandwich cut in half, but they cut it into 3 parts.
Oh.
And it felt like more food, so it was better.
Oh, wow.
I was
That's
very happy.
nice. Yeah.
Sounds like a great
Sorry.
experience.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, we've alluded to it a few times in this conversation. Maybe we should just say straight up, you had food poisoning for like the last week or so.
yeah, it was really weird. I got it. I'm convinced that I don't know anymore where I got it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because everywhere, the place I thought I got it, nobody else got it. I was like, well, maybe that's not
And
that.
we were there.
Yeah.
And then the other place I thought it might be the people who ate the same food didn't get it.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it was.
It's just you.
One thing I think is I had Chinese food, and I remember eating a piece of chicken and thinking it tasted rancid, like something was wrong.
When was this?
Like the same day as I had the Indian food.
Interesting.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then I was like, I spit it out as much as I could, but
Yeah.
some of it went down.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, for a few days I was out of commission. And
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. Like,
Sucks.
Yeah.
and what's funny is like, I feel like recently I was like, oh man, I haven't gotten food poisoning in a long time.
You see, why would you tempt? Why would
Yeah,
you tempt
why
the
would you do
fates?
that?
Because I don't know what happened. But
Yeah.
I felt better. After Sunday, Monday, I started eating regular food, and
Sure.
I was very happy.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So,
So then, how did
Great.
you end up like finishing your message? Because
Oh, yeah.
to go through that and then
Yeah.
to also have to finish a message.
so in the morning, I would wake up, and it was just basically in the bathroom for like the whole morning.
Sure.
And then for some reason, in the afternoons, I felt maybe like 3 hours or so each of the days. I felt decent enough to get some work done.
Okay.
So I just kind of did as much work as I could. And I was just like, God, okay, well, from here, just do what you got to do because I can't do anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it turned out okay, I think. But yeah, it was painful. Ugh,
Yeah.
never again.
Well, praise the Lord, you are
Yes.
through that portion.
Yeah.
And
Oh my
hopefully
gosh.
it never happens again.
Yes.
And let's not tempt the fates
Yes,
anymore,
yeah,
Pastor Key.
Yeah, I had it recent, so never again. I just tempted it right there, but
Speaking of the message, we won't get too much into the sermon conversation, but this past Sunday, among many things, we had fellowship at the park, and then we had Father's Day.
Yeah.
But this past Sunday also marked the end of the sermon series that we've been on for a good long while.
yeah.
What do you mean, Jesus?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought maybe what we can do for the better half of this conversation is sort of talk about the like the effects, the overall sort of like, did we do what we thought we were going to do with this series? Where were some successes? What were some things that maybe needed some work? Overall, like when we finished the last series before this, we kind of had a bit of a conversation about where we would go after that, right? And
Yeah.
and I thought maybe we could also do some of that. But to start off, I think the bulk of the messages have been Pastor Key and I gave one. Bobae, have you given one in
No.
this? No. Okay, you're preaching this Sunday.
Yeah.
Yes. So I guess then this is primarily a question for Pastor Key, but Bobae, I want you to be able to speak into it. Like, how did you feel the overall effect of the series went? Did we do sort of what we said we were going to do with the series?
Man, I just realized it's a fairly long series.
Yeah.
I looked
It's
at
like
my
8 weeks.
Yeah, 8 sermons. I took 7 of them. I was like, oh my God, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to tie it together at the end with this sermon, but I couldn't get to the part where I would talk about the whole coming awake, and the whole idea was to come awake to the deeper truths that Jesus is trying to teach us. And so I couldn't put a nice little bow tie on it at the end like I wanted to, but I got feedback that this was people's favorite series in a long time. And people are like, when's part 2 coming out? I was like, okay. Maybe in a few years. But yeah.
I love that people think that there's a part 2 of an 8-week long sermon series.
Yeah.
What do you think we're going to call it? What do you really mean?
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I feel like the conversations I've had, people really, it was interesting because they're like, I feel really engaged with the Word of God. And it's not like we had these topical things to talk about, but we really engaged the Word of God, and people felt like they were being fed and, in a sense, awakened to, oh my God, this is what Jesus meant. And I've been getting probably the most active response for a while, since a while, So in that sense, it was good. But did we achieve our overall? I think so. I will say, though, I think I would have liked to have been a little bit more explicit in each of the sermons about kind of like the takeaway to our theme. But I don't know. You can only do that so many times, I feel like. And sometimes I just want to be like, hey, just give the message and, just take it for what it is.
Sure.
I don't know. But yeah, overall, I think it was pretty good. I think it ended up okay. Yeah. How about you guys?
It's good. I think one of the things we wanted to do, if I remember correctly, is to get people to think deeper about the word. And considering all the feedback and stuff, I think it helped people to see, like, there's more to, like, not just more to the text, but, like, it's not just, like, a lot of the text, what am I saying? A lot of texts have to do with other texts. And, like, there's, like, interconnected thing across the Bible and also in the Gospels, because that's where we were primarily, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a richness to each of the teachings and stories, so much wisdom packed into all that stuff. So, yeah, I think that was, and my hope is, as much as it was hopefully a stimulating thing, that it would lead to people actually recognizing and reading the Word of God a little bit more. I mean, that's ultimately the goal. So, and wanting to get to know Jesus, because a lot of people have, they read the Bible, they still have a caricature of who Jesus is, and hopefully we've been able to dispel some of that to realize, hey, there's a real intelligent, wise, loving God behind all of these things, and just unpacking some of the richness behind that. Hopefully that gives them a taste of what they can have.
Sure.
So
yeah. Is there of the 7 messages that you've given, Pastor Key, and I'll include the one message that I had a hand in. If you could maybe do it all over again, is there something that you'd want to do again? Is there a message that you sort of left some stuff on the table that you didn't quite, maybe it's time, or maybe it just didn't fit the overall flow? Anything that if you had an opportunity that you'd do again? Bobae, I'm going to ask you a version of this question, but for you primarily, Pastor Key, anything at all?
I think the I Am sermon, that was, I kind of truncated that to be more palatable to new listeners, and because that was our Bring Your Friend Sunday.
Sure.
But that, because the whole I Am idea is just, it can be like 3 sermons,
right?
And so that I would have liked to explore a lot more in depth. And then obviously this last one, I didn't get to do as much as I wanted to. But other than that, I feel like most of them I got at least 70%, 75% of what I want to say for each of those messages. So I think part of my growing as a pastor is just like, you can't say everything.
Yeah.
It's okay just leaving it on the table and then revisit some other time.
Sure.
you know, So.
And Bobae, for you, you're preaching, we had a very intentional talk, the three of us, in our staff meeting about like how we would sort of fit ourselves into the preaching schedule. And given the fact that you're preaching this coming Sunday and it being sort of an important Sunday, you had opted out of this series. So I guess my version of the question to you is, if we could do it again and you had the capacity, you had the wherewithal, and you had the desire, like, is there a topic or a sermon or something in the Gospels that you find particularly like, that it resonates pretty deeply with you, and that you would, like try your hand at giving a sermon in the vein of what do you mean, Jesus?
Yeah. I think the gnashing of teeth stuff I would have liked to tackle.
Yeah,
That
that's
again.
right.
Yeah, I think that would have been something, because in that, like in the beginning of the series, that's something I was like kind of sitting on for a little bit. So it would have been fun to dive into that with people, because I'm sure they have questions about that.
Yeah.
Do it this Sunday.
No, I don't actually. I mean, I might. I don't know.
She
No, I'm
will
just
be
kidding.
gnashing
Yeah.
teeth instead of teaching about it.
That's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
Pastor Key.
Wow.
Something else.
I love you, Pastor Key.
Yeah, that's probably the one that I would have liked to kind of,
Sure. Where would
work
you go?
through.
Yeah, where would you go with that? I'm curious because you said that before.
Yeah.
And like you never really got to kind of put your hand to it. So like,
Yeah.
Where would you go with that? Just general broad strokes.
I don't know. I didn't give it like a lot of thought, like in terms of where I would go. But I think there's a reason why it's repeated in two different stories, like very closely together. So I would have liked to observe that, like kind of go through that. Yeah, and what it means and why Jesus said that. Or if there's something that is somewhere else in the Bible that can help us understand the context or why, like what that signifies. you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Man, that would be a real sort of like a ear grabber.
Yeah.
That particular message. The
Gnashing of teeth.
Yeah, the gnashing of teeth.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, I think there's for me at least 12 other messages I would have done. Like, because, we didn't even tackle hell. We didn't tackle the sheep and the goats.
Yep.
We didn't tackle so many things. You know what I mean? And so there's a whole bunch of things.
Yeah.
So.
If I had the opportunity, I think I lately I've been feeling like the parable of the Good Samaritan. I've been feeling something on that lately.
That's a rich one, man.
And that would be an incredible sort of just a way to engage, like, what does Christ mean when he says to love your neighbor, right? And he gives that parable. And, so often we think that just, being a good Samaritan means being nice to the people that are around you, like your neighbors or, the people that you work with. And there's a kind of, for lack of a better word, like a whitewashing to it, not from a race perspective, but just from the fact that like it's so vanilla how we actually live out the parable of the Good Samaritan, when the harder truth of that parable in that context is that Jesus is probably speaking to a bunch of Jewish rulers, elders, leaders. He's speaking to a lot of people that are entrenched in a culture, and a Samaritan to them is an enemy.
Yeah.
Is a sworn enemy from generations and generations ago. And I don't know how this would fly, but if I had the opportunity, I'd give it in the context of we're all Korean. And one of the harder things in the Korean culture is the occupation, like the Japanese occupation in Korea. And so I have, I'm blessed to still have my grandparents are alive, and they don't have wonderful things to say about that period,
Of course,
or about Japanese people, because they still walk around with so much hurt, trauma, pain, so much anguish from like that time period, and you know the challenge, the outright like disrespect of Christ to be like, maybe to my grandparents, the parable of
The good.
the good Japanese person, right? And the outright challenge of Christ to, let's say, to our African American brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
You know, the good white person, and like, you know, find all of these different ways in which you are searching for your enemy and you are making them the good Samaritan, right? And like that's the full, at least in a 1 minute sort of a synopsis, that being like the full weight of it.
Yeah.
Man, there's so much. Man, there's so much. I'm with you, Pastor Key. Like we could have done maybe 6 more months, you know, of this message. Yeah, I don't know.
Wow. Yeah, it was fun. I definitely would say I had fun, and I'd look forward to each week to kind of read all the scholars to be like, hey, what does this really say?
Yeah.
So it was a learning experience as much for me as anybody else.
Yeah.
So it was fun.
Yeah.
Good times.
So then, where do we go from here? You know, we have a standalone coming this Sunday with Bobae preaching. And then afterwards, we're entering an entirely new season. We're going to get to it.
We're entering into the unknown.
We're entering into
The
an entirely new
unknown.
season of our church.
Wait, do we know the next
We do.
series? We do?
We do.
I
think
just
so.
don't.
Yeah. Pastor Key, then, if you could, like, where do we go from here, and what, you know, where's your heart pulling us, and
The
and
unknown.
how are we going?
No, we're going into the second to last letter. No. Yeah, second to last letter in our acronym for the year.
Oh,
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
That's right.
And, you know, we can talk about it a little bit, right?
Yeah,
This
please.
whole idea of, we always talk about get to know God. And we all talk about get to know ourselves. But there's a power in knowing that we're known, right? God's knowledge of us, God knowing us intimately, and how that impacts our living, right? And, you know, Josh spoke very eloquently about that in our staff meeting and kind of how he was feeling it. So that's where we're headed. And I actually talked to ChatGPT about this.
Uh-oh.
And
dangerous.
It's happened, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, Pastor Key.
But I actually said, you know, what Christian thinkers in the past in Christian history have talked about this idea of God personally knowing us and the spiritual kind of impact that has on our lives. And ChatGPT gave me 5. And I said, I need 5 more. And gave me 5 more. I said, I need 5 more. And gave me 5 more. And then and I said, narrow it to these last 2 millennia, the 21st and the 20th century. It gave me more. And I got down.
Give me 500 words on it.
Yeah. And I got down to.
Give me 40 minutes.
A couple authors I probably never would have read.
Wow.
So that was pretty interesting. And I ordered a book because of one of the recommendations. And
Shout out to ChatGPT.
yeah. So I realized what ChatGPT. Sorry, this is kind of a
Please.
tangent.
We're going to do a ChatGPT series.
Because, you know, let's say I wanted to find out kind of what authors have talked about this. I'd have to go to Google.
Yes.
And they read all these different articles, right? But what ChatGPT does is it does all of that for you and then just summarize it into these bite-sized chunks that you can. It's just so much better, I realize, in terms of research. So I give ChatGPT my thumbs up.
And that is where the line is. It's not writing messages. We can attest.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, known.
Yeah. In terms of writing, though, I've asked it to write sermons.
Sure.
Right? And they're not very good.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is what it is, right?
It's still AI at the end of the day.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Okay. So, how then, like, have you already thought about the broad stroke of, like, you know, like knowing God, being known, and what that means in our everyday living, and how that might manifest itself in the church? Like, you know, like, what are the broad strokes? Like, how, not necessarily how long will the sermon series be, but just generally, what's the What's the overall framework that you think you're going to be?
I don't know. I just, so for me, my process is I'll dive myself into all the reading and research, and then the structure just kind of comes up eventually.
Yeah.
So I haven't even got to that point yet.
Okay.
But I'm hoping by the end of the week I'll have something.
Sure.
But just, for me, it's just the little things from my experience of God knowing me and how that has been very empowering and encouraging. That's kind of the only kind of little bit of a sense of where I'm headed. But there's probably so much more than that.
Yeah. Bobae, for you, where do you think we, as a church, might benefit from going with a message like this or with a series like this, right? Because we think in terms of series because we're trying to give ourselves a little bit more breathing room than only talking about messages, right?
Sure.
And so, like, where do you think would be helpful? How do you think we should go? Like, if you had your opportunity to speak into it at all.
I think something we mentioned last week, something about God knowing you in your brokenness, not just in your sad place, but in your sin. I think that would be a very interesting thing to address in this series, because God knowing us in the intimate details of our lives, I think is probably the way our love changes for the Lord, like in a deeper sense, So, and maybe, I think that's something that I would think about addressing in this series, and possibly, like friendship with the Lord, what that looks like.
Oh, I like that. I'm taking notes, by the way. I'm not texting anybody.
Yeah. Hate messages. Okay, friendship with the Lord. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean, friendship with the Lord?
That song.
I'm a friend of God.
I hate that song, man. That's like, I mean,
It just came out.
I wasn't thinking about that song.
I had a feeling that might happen. I wasn't gonna bet any money on it, but I'm so glad that.
What's the other Friends song? Isn't there another Friends song?
Yeah, Jesus, you are my best friend. That's the kids'
I don't know
one.
that one. Oh.
That's a children. I think that's a children's one.
No, it's a Hillsong.
Oh,
it's a
it's a fast
Hillsong
song.
one.
It's a fast song.
Yeah, I think about that.
Bessie, can you sing the song one more time?
No.
Just
You're gonna have to
replay
cut it and replay.
Yeah, replay it. Just insert.
Go back 25 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. You're gonna get a treat.
That was great. That was awesome.
I'm sorry, Pastor Bobae.
No,
please
it's okay.
Continue.
Yeah, I think there's something about companionship and walking with the Lord. I wouldn't necessarily go as far. I don't know. I have weird feelings about it, but there is a friendship that develops eventually as you walk with the Lord.
Yeah.
And that comes in the way God trusts you, the things that God entrusts you with. Also in your decisions, like all those things, I think there's companionship and friendship that develops. So thinking about that, I think could be interesting.
That is interesting. I like that.
Yeah. Man.
I'm not sure if that necessarily fits in this specific.
Oh, it does. It does.
But I think that's something. Yeah, because I didn't know, like, it wasn't until, like, my counselor pointed it out to me that Jesus thought of me as a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Scripture all but says we go from servants to friends.
Yeah.
Friends know the plans, servants don't.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really awesome. Well, I mean, that's just a small sneak preview of what's to come, right? If you're a regular watcher or listener to the sermons, or if you're a regular attender, if you're a member, or leader, deacon, elder, whatever the case may be, there's a lot to look forward to with our sermon series coming up. I think I'm with you guys. I think we did what we sort of set out to do with the What Do You Mean Jesus series, which is get people to think more critically about the things that they hear all the time, right? So whether it's I am, or whether it's forsaken, whether it's get behind me, Satan. I remember that being
that was fun.
yeah, that being a pretty interesting message, or the shrewd manager, or anything, right? It's
yeah.
it's just to think a little bit more critically, like Christ, is he really saying what I think he's saying? And just that thing alone helps your overall like devotion and your ability to take in the word. So I think we did it, and so I'm really excited for what's to come.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Nice.
there isn't unfortunately there isn't too much cause for excitement because, and this is sort of my turn towards the maybe harder thing that we have to do today, and I'm sorry about this, Bobae, but
It's okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Put your pink headphone back
Yeah,
on,
yeah.
sir.
well, for those who are unfamiliar, or for those who remember, 2 episodes ago we announced something that a lot of our church community and a lot of our long-term members have already known for quite some time. But today, on this podcast and this Sunday during Sunday service, marks the last kind of week, the last instance, the last. This is Pastor Bobae's last podcast episode, ladies and gentlemen. And this Sunday we're doing a standalone Sunday for Pastor Bobae to kind of give a farewell message, which means that for the next sermon series you're not going to be with us.
No, I won't get to preach.
No.
This chapter in your life is closing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While we are so happy for you to sort of grow and be encouraged and being taken on a journey with the Lord, that also means that you're not going to be with us regularly.
Yeah.
And so
Sad
since the
times.
last time we spoke about it till now,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had plenty more time to process and think through and all that stuff. Like how are you doing? How are you processing? How are you going?
It's okay. It's sad. This past Sunday was my last Sunday with just our kids in our own service
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
Mercy Kids.
That's right. We're doing family worship.
This coming Sunday is family worship, and that was really sad. I did totally fine, and then, I wanted to talk about how Jesus washed his disciples' feet, and my idea was they're my first disciples, so I want to wash their feet.
Oh, man.
And so it's kind of funny because all the older kids, like the kids in elementary school, they're like, nah, you ain't washing my feet. And I wasn't going to make them,
Sure.
But all the little ones, they're like, oh, yeah, wash my feet. So they like all got in line. The teachers, they like took pictures. But because there's like a lot more of them and, they have short attention spans and stuff, we actually just like washed their one foot. And now when I think about it now, I'm like, man, I should have just done both. I don't know what the rush was, but it's still a very beautiful moment.
Wash my foot.
Yeah, just one foot. Sorry, Jesus. I told the kids, I was like, I'm not Jesus.
This isn't how it's supposed to go.
Yeah. But it was our version, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's still like very nice.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I thanked the kids. I was like, thanks for letting me be your pastor. And that's when I couldn't continue talking when I went to say thanks. But thankfully some of the kids were like, so are we getting candy today? And that just distracted all of us. And I was, some of the teachers were trying to get the kids to settle down and
Sure.
stuff. But I was like, no, I'm okay with that. And I told the kids, I was like, I hope when you think of me, you don't just think about candy.
Yeah.
I hope you think about Jesus and his love and blah, blah, blah. But I really didn't want to cry, but I knew it was going to happen. And then it did happen at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And then I prayed for them. I blessed them. And then we went to do tie-dye shirts for the dads, which was wild. I don't know. I was very ambitious of me to think that could happen. And it did happen, but it was a lot. But yeah, I mean, I think more recently, God's been doing a lot of different things in my heart. In terms of just in this transition. Actually, more in the last 2 weeks, God's been really helping me grieve. I liken this to a breakup. I'm not leaving because I hate it, or I'm not we're not breaking up because we hate each other. It's because it's just time to move on, right? And so it's been like a very sad, but it's bittersweet. Bittersweet. But yeah, in the last couple of weeks, God's been really helping me to kind of focus on what is to come in a more positive way. I think because I love our community so much, going into this next season, I definitely was not happy about it
Sure.
for a long time. And I was not excited about it. I shared with some people, I said, I know this is exciting, and people tell me this is exciting. I'm so excited for you, but I don't feel excited. It's not something I'm looking forward to immediately right now. But I think in the last week or so, I've been getting more excited. Yeah, and that came with a lot of like changing my heart towards my next season. Yeah, really, because I realized like this, I don't know, I'm like debating if I want to share this on Sunday or not, but I just realized there's a lot of me still in all of this, in this transition in the next season. And I just need to not be like that. It's taking away the joy, I think. It's taking away the excitement. Because I keep saying, I'm not excited, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not ready, I'm not, and that type of thinking, I think, is taking away from what is to come. So that and amongst other things that God's been doing in my heart. So yeah, I'm just sad about it.
Sure.
But it's bittersweet. That's the best way I can explain
Bitter.
it. You're just bitter, PK. You're just bitter.
No sweetness to that at all.
I don't taste anything sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord, pray for that man.
No, seriously. No, but I was telling my sister, like, I'm really going to miss, like, all the things I was going to miss about being a part of our community and stuff like that. Yeah, and I think one of the things I'll miss the most is being a part of this team. I don't know. I think, like, for a while, it was just me and PK, and, it was okay. And then you came along, and then I feel like the three of us really became, like, I mean, we were a team before anyway, but I think you added something, and it became, we were a team, but I feel like we became more than a team. And that's, like, that's the power of, like, what people can bring to the table. So I think that's, like, something I'm going to really miss. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, we're gonna miss you, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You like I haven't really had as much time as you had with Pastor Key, but I know that I myself, I'm gonna be like, oh man, like I look forward to seeing Bobae at the office or at church, and sometimes you walk in and be like, yo, what's up, man? And just
that was amazing. That was amazing.
Yeah, my impressions last about 0.75 seconds.
But spot on.
Spot on, man.
Yeah.
Holy.
Yeah. So, I don't know, Pastor Key, do you have anything that you'll miss most about Pastor Bobae's time absence?
Everything. Two thoughts that come to mind are I'm just really proud of Pastor Bobae.
Oh, thanks.
I think I think about it, and actually, I've never, besides your initial taking of this position, I never had to push you. Like I feel like you just did your thing, and you did it above and beyond expectation at every single level, which is why you kept, growing in your stature in a positive sense in our community. And I'm just really proud of the fact that you stepped into all these things and really, put your all into it. And it's been amazing. Like our community has benefited like so much because of that. Much of our community experience and just the church in general, a lot of what God has done through you has made a big impact. So huge stuff, man.
Thank you.
Really, really proud. And, I just actually, I was just right before I came here, I was with a bunch of pastors and I talked you up, man. And after I left, I'm like, why did I do that?
Yeah, you have to close
Because
all of our doors.
I saw like a couple of their eyes and I'm like, don't you dare freaking.
There he is.
I mean, I cue you now. But,
You're so funny.
But the other thing I will say is how you're leaving. If there's ever a case study of how to do this perfectly, this is the way. And I think in the way you're leaving, you're blessing so many people, and because I've seen people leave in not so great ways.
Sure.
And I feel like Christian character and grace has what's characterized this particular transition. So very grateful for that. So as much as I'm very, very bitter and still very upset.
Very openly.
And I still hope for the next several months you're like still really sad about it.
Cancel that curse in the name of Jesus.
Amen.
But I'm really excited for you.
Yeah.
I am also really excited for the church as well. Like I just feel God, like, hey, He's going to be good to all of us as long as we are edifying and supporting one another through all this. So yeah, man. But yeah, in terms of just very simple stuff, your craziness, it's just been so awesome. Like I was just talking to Pastor Josh. What were some easy button statements?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Right. And then he told me 3. I was like, oh, those are all.
Yes.
And all these memories just flooded through my head.
Yes. I can do.
I can do.
You can do. We can do.
We can do. I can do.
It's good.
Yeah.
Good stuff. But
No,
yeah.
I mean, I tell all my pastor friends and anybody really that I feel like I get support and favor here I wouldn't find this, I think, at a different church. And I think a lot of it has to do with Pastor Key, you making space for me, and also like some of the leaders and elders really leading by example to show what it looks like to be a support to the pastoral staff. So I consider myself very fortunate, very lucky to have had my first start as a pastor at New Mercy Palisades. I really do. Yeah. I really do.
I'm reminded, speaking of the Gospels, speaking of what do you mean, Jesus? I'm reminded of this one little section in the beginning of Christ's life, right before he starts his ministry. I believe it's Luke. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's Luke. There's a small little phrase, a section where it says, and he grew in favor with both God and man. And I don't know. I think if there's anyone to whom that statement, that point of fact applies to, I see very few people to whom it applies to as well as it applies to you.
Yeah.
Aww.
You grew in favor with both God and man here, and whatever happens thereafter this season, I mean, a lot of it is going to be because you know, there's stuff forged here, right?
Yeah, for
there's
sure.
stuff forged here that, like bitterness.
Anger.
The saying, like, you never forget your first boyfriend.
Okay. Good. Okay.
You get it?
Yeah, I get.
Church.
Yeah. Something.
All the years of your life. It's going to come back to this.
Oh my God.
If there is a case study to be had about how not to encourage somebody who's on their way out, that. I'm sorry, Bobae, I cut you off. Right there.
No, it's okay. I wasn't gonna say anything.
Everybody knows I'm just playing, right?
No, of course.
No, I
That's
mean, like,
your
I'm
way of missing
Well,
me.
forget them.
I get it.
There's something
PK.
wrong with this
Yeah.
pastor.
I wondered if we could just do one more thing, one last
Sure.
thing. Is because I think that this your pending or upcoming departure, the next season of your life, and what that means for you personally, what that means for us as a team, and what that means for us as a church, I think a lot of it has a really good parallels to how people, speaking of people who are listening and watching, a lot of it has really great parallels to our audience who might be in a similar kind of a season, or at the very least have been thinking about how to do things like this, right? Or how to handle transition seasons, how to wrestle with the Lord in order to get to maybe a harder conclusion, right? Like there's so much of it that I think has wonderful parallels to the everyday believer. And so I wondered if for both of you, you might be able to speak into maybe 1 or 2 points of encouragement, some kind of teaching points or coaching points that you might have for someone who maybe they themselves are kind of like in a holding pattern of sorts, and they don't know how to. It's not how to like. You're not giving them the answer, but you're giving them a way to find the answer, to grasp for the answer, right? Like, what are some things that someone who might be in a similar season that you can give them, point to them for?
First is pray. Second is walk with your pastor in the process. I think a lot of times when not just leaders but congregants too, when they leave a church, it's normally when they tell the pastor, it's normally at the end when they've already made up their mind, when they've already concluded, and literally next week they're gone, you know? But I think there is something about walking with your pastor through a transition, whether it's a positive one or a negative one. Now, not every transition can look perfect, or it's not always going to end up the way you want it to look like. But I think allowing your pastor to be your discipler, even in moments of transition, I think is a good thing. It's a learning moment for the pastor, but also for you to say, oh, I can leave a church with a blessing.
Sure.
And not just like on a sour note.
Yeah.
Normally the sour note happens because it's just so there's no time to really talk and process with each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be number 2. And number 3, if possible, don't leave until the Lord tells you to.
Yeah.
I think part of the reason why this transition, I mean, I had a lot of goals, my own personal goals when I knew that this was going to happen, right? Number 1, I wanted to do right by the church. And that would be obviously including Pastor Key and figuring out what it's going to look like together, like all that's thankful and faithful through the whole entire process. And I wouldn't have thought of any of that if I knew that, like if I was just leaving because I wanted to.
Sure.
You know? Yeah, so if possible, try not to go nowhere until the Lord says, now it's time for the next thing. And that's not just as a pastor, but I think it's for anybody. You know, because like with different seasons of life come different things, different needs, or different whatevers, right? And then the answer isn't immediately going to be, oh, I have to leave this church. It's not going to be that. That's not always the answer. I would assume probably 80% of the time that's not the answer.
Sure.
So yeah, so those are like kind of like the 3 things that I would encourage people to consider and try.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, I think I took your question more about just whatever transition that people are in.
Sure. Any transition.
At work.
Yep.
You know.
Oh.
But with your particular situation, what I appreciated most, and the reason why I was able to be fine with it right off the bat, was because it didn't feel like something of human origin. It felt like something that God initiated, and you were trying to be obedient to it, which I would say 99% of the time, in my experience, has not been the case.
Sure.
You know, So that's all I'll say about that. But in terms of life transitions and things like that, I do think there's a lot of wisdom in first explore why you want to leave a job or why you want to move to another place or why you want to, whatever. And just digging into the kind of what's behind all of that. Because I think, even if you do end up kind of leaving, that's just such a healthy exercise to figure out what are the motivations and things like that. But I don't know. I don't have too many experiences of mine where I have a couple.
I was just gonna say you planted 3 churches.
Yeah. So
you have plenty of.
Yeah, that's immediately what came to mind. Like, man, I just planted some churches, but and man, it's when you're going through it's so murky. It's so, as much as you might have conviction, it's still so cloudy. It's still so not clear at times because your emotions are in there. And I don't know. I don't know what real advice I can give, but really just trying to bring it before God. So for me, anytime I'm in a state of confusion, the past few years, I've just learned I just come to God and say, God, I'm confused. I really don't know what the next step is. I really don't even know how to think about this step. I don't even know how to feel about my emotions, know? And so, God, I'm just laying it before you. And then somehow the pieces start, falling into place, at least in my experience. So it's hard to say. Like, generalized advice is hard to give in something like this. I'd have to sit down and kind of look at all the different circumstances and things like that. And not just circumstances and the different things that God is trying to say. So I don't know. That's about all I can really say generally.
Yeah. Which speaks to one of Bobae's points was to make sure that you're walking with your pastor.
Yeah.
Whether it's a church or whether it's a job or whether, relationships are a big thing, right? Like there are a ton of different areas in which, as I'm with you, Pastor Key, like it takes a personal touch. It takes someone who's known you, walked with you for a little bit in order for them to be able to more genuinely speak into whatever that transition might be. I think the one thing that I might add is, in a lot of these things, I think sometimes we get so fixated on what is the answer, what is the thing to do,
Right.
what am I supposed to do, and we place a huge emphasis, a heavy weight on what is that thing, right? Because and this is me giving the benefit of the doubt, we as Christians, we want to be like those wonderful missionaries and pastors and great Christian leaders who have these awesome testimonies of faith that says, I listened to the Lord and I got this and I did it and it was crazy and it was wild and it was fun, but it was also hard. But and the benefit of the doubt is to say, like, I think we want to be like that, but we don't know how to be like that, and so we're paralyzed into not ever thinking about what to do. And my thing is, what if in your job transition, in your relationship or in your friendships or whatever transition you might be in life, what if the thing here isn't so much that God needs to tell you what to do and you need to hear it for what it is, but what if God just wants to get close to you? And like whatever happens in 6 months, whatever happens in a year, what if it's all a net positive because you at least feel closer with the Lord, right?
Yeah.
And so, Bobae, for you, I'm sure you feel this, and you've mentioned this to us a couple times, in private and in secret. It's the idea of like, you don't know exactly what's happening.
I have no idea.
I still think that you don't have your plans 100% sorted out for the next however many. But how close do you feel to the Lord right now?
I mean.
And would you give it up?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's so much truth to that because we always want answers. We always want, like, we hate open-ended.
Sure.
Navigating through the unknown. But even though it's definitely a process, figuring out what it looks like to trust God in a season like this. But I think that process is so worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if there's gonna be another season like this where I'm taking, I don't know what other people feel or think about this, but for me in my life, it's a big risk.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the biggest risks I've taken, like as an adult, you know, and I think I wouldn't do it because I wouldn't have done it if not for God, but I couldn't have done it if not for God. you know?
Sure. Yeah.
So I think that's how it works
Of course.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to what you said, Pastor Josh, that, you know, you're going through these things. It's not easy. It's hard, adversity. But if you find that you can lean on God during those times, when you start having a taste of that closeness, you're right. You wouldn't trade it in for the world. You know, and that's really pretty powerful. It's tough to kind of describe unless you experience it.
That's right.
You know, when I've experienced it, I'm like, wow, this is what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Even though life sucks.
Yeah. It's that old bittersweet thing that comes back. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
awesome, man.
The what to do comes when you have a history with the Lord. And a lot of times we can't discern what to do because we don't know our history with the Lord. We have a history with the church. We have a history with our jobs. We have a history with these relationships. We have a history with this, that, and the other thing. But how many of us are really okay with giving all those up so that you can hang on to your history with the Lord, you know? And so, I don't know. I just think, here's what I know. I know that we're going to be praying for you, Pastor Bobae.
Thank you.
I know that we're going to miss you a great deal.
Me too.
I know that the next few weeks and months, perhaps an extended season where you're still going to have to journey and wrestle and struggle and all that stuff. But we also pray that that struggle is not longer than it needs to be and that it's not harder than it needs to be. It's the exact right amount of tension in order for you to feel closer with the Lord, right? So that's our prayer. That's our hope.
Thank you.
Any last thought?
Yeah, I pray that this next season is amazing. So amazing that you're so close to God that it leads you back here.
Wow, I was not expecting
ladies and
that.
gentlemen.
I did just have a thought, though. You know, I am kind of sad that we never got to do overseas missions together.
Yeah.
That was so authentic. Because 3 of the years was the pandemic, right? We couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And the other years, you're just building up your ministry. So we never had an opportunity.
Well, that's not to say that an opportunity won't come.
That's right. So that's where I was going to go in the future. If we do mission trips, you know, you're more than welcome to come back and lead a team for free.
For free. I like that. I like that she's the one giving us.
Yeah, right? I couldn't. Okay.
Oh, man, we're going to miss you, Bobae. We're going to miss you.
Yes, we are.
I'm going to miss this podcast.
Yeah.
I am.
Oh.
Yeah, actually, to our audience, I mean, I know it's putting you on the spot. Anything you want to say? Like,
Thank you for listening and watching.
she's still amazed that people listen to us.
It's been like
Yeah.
so long now. What?
Yeah.
I don't even know how many months at this point.
It's been about a year.
Are you
Yeah,
real?
we're getting pretty close to
Yeah,
like
we are.
episode 50.
That's crazy.
And we only took like 4 or 5 weeks off.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's been about a year.
I'm still amazed people listen and that people recognize us from the YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. We're not celebrities, Mike.
no.
This is
no.
just in church.
Yeah, in church.
It's more than one person. So
People are like, "Oh, I watched the podcast." You watched the podcast?
more than our wives.
Yeah.
More than our siblings.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
No,
that's
no.
amazing.
And they're like, "Oh yeah, I was listening to podcasts and you said this." I did. Like,
Yeah.
you guys know more about what I said than what I know about what I
right.
said.
A couple of people have said to me, they meet me for the first time. You're like, I feel like I know you more than you know me, and I
yeah.
feel weird about that.
Yeah.
Somebody recently who's interviewing with us, you know, stuff like that. he's like, yeah, last 2 episodes, you guys have been very obsessed with Jared Fogle.
It's not an obsession here. Whoever you are.
It is a journey. And we're wrestling.
It's just a talking point. No
Any
kidding.
other thoughts? Anything else you want to throw out there for the people? Like,
Keep watching.
okay.
Yeah.
No, I'll be back. I'm sure I'll be back.
Oh yeah,
Hopefully I'll come
spots,
back
right?
and
Yeah.
have more testimonies and
Yeah.
just be able to fill you guys in on like all of the stuff that God's doing. I consider New Mercy Palisades family. I mean, this is my fam, you know. So
You know, you're technically a founding member of this podcast. So anytime in the future you want to come back, do a guest spot.
and technically New Mercy Palisades.
That's true. You planted with us. That's right.
That's right. So
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, don't leave.
yeah, but
Alrighty.
yes, please keep watching. Please keep listening. Please keep recognizing us.
What happens when you go to Korea and someone's like, I watched the podcast?
Oh my God, I don't
Oh,
know.
man.
Oh, that sounds so horrendous.
That'd be
That
weird.
would be amazing.
You know, if it happens, I'll let you know.
Please let us do.
I'll let you guys
Oh
know.
yeah, definitely.
I'll tag you.
Yeah.
I'll tag you.
Please. With that, we're going to bring this conversation to a close. Bobae, we're going to miss you a lot.
Thank you. Me too.
We bless you, whatever you got to do, however the Lord journeys with you. And whatever God wants to do through you, we say yes and amen.
Amen.
For the rest of us, we're going to just leave it there. Until we meet again, we hope that you are blessed. And this is NMPC Plus signing off for now.